Are you in your 40s and 50s and you love to travel and you have the money to do it, but you don't necessarily have the time to plan it, or maybe you don't even know how to plan it? If so, check out this video and I'm going to show you a new way to travel that might be the perfect fit for you. And then at the end of this video, I'm even going to show you how you can potentially get 2 free hotel nights added onto this trip. Hey there, travel lovers. It's your trusted cruise and Tauck tour and Africa safari expert, Shawn Power here. And today what I want to do is I want to talk to you about a brand new product in the market in the travel world. And it's called Roam, R-O-A-M, by Tauck. So again, it's Roam by Tauck. Now, if you're a client of mine or a viewer of mine on my YouTube channel, you know I talk about Tauck quite a bit. I've personally traveled with Tauck about 14, maybe 13 or 14 times now. And my clients love Tauck. They keep coming back again and again, whether it's their river cruises or land tours or small ship cruises. And this is a 101-year-old company who basically knows how to show you the world. I mean, some of my own best personal trips have by far been on Tauck. So we know Tauck is a great company to travel with, and anyone who's traveled on knows that for sure. So why this new division came around is, let me kind of explain it. Like I said, Tauck's been around for 101 years now, and they started as a land tour company, which is still their bread and butter. They also do river cruises and small ship cruises, which they're very successful with. But if you look at it, the average Tauck clientele is 67 years old. Now, basically, they also have another division called Bridges. And Bridges is kind of more for younger families. So it might be, you might have people in their 30s, 40s, maybe even early 50s. They have the kids, maybe the teenagers, and they want to travel with them. So Tauck also has a division called Bridges, which is basically, a little bit more catered, where they have activities for the younger ones, for every generation. But the point is they really focus on the younger ones. So what they've been missing for a long time is kind of like that gap in between. You've got the people who aren't quite in the 67-year-old range yet, but maybe the kids are gone and they want to do some travel. And they don't necessarily want to be traveling with people, 20 plus years older than them. Even myself, I'm 51 years old. And I've always, I've been traveling with Tauck now for probably 10 plus years, and I'm always kind of on the younger side for sure. So, and that's fine, because I love the people I meet. I learn some amazing things. And, it's really fun to travel with people. They're, everyone's so friendly. They don't, care how old I am and that kind of thing. But the point is what Tauck is finding is that people in their 40s and 50s, they're wanting to travel more with people their own age. We'll call it in the same life stage. Now, why that is, and I can kind of share from my own experience, when I go on a typical Tauck trip and I'm hanging out with people 20 years older, they're probably retired. They're not necessarily going through the things I am at the time. I'm a very busy business owner. My life is not necessarily balanced, so it'd be kind of nice to hang out with other people my age and, kind of see what they're up to if they're running their own business. I don't have kids myself, but lots of people around my age do. I'm sure they got real busy lives, dealing with the kids and all the sports activities. So the point is, I guess it's nice to just kind of really hang out with people your own age, so you can kind of really, have some interesting chats during the free time and that kind of stuff. So that's why Tauck designed this. But they also did it not only to service this age group, but it's kind of a different style. So when you do a typical Tauck trip, and if you've done a Tauck trip, as I have many times, you'll know they're busy. Everything is planned from door to door. I mean, every day there's multiple tours included. Pretty much almost every meal is included. And a lot of people do a Tauck trip and they say, that was amazing, but now I feel like I need to go home and I need to take a vacation after doing my Tauck vacation. So the point is that people who are in their 40s and 50s, they're not retired. They got to go back to work. So they're not going to just, learn, visit a new place, try new things, have new foods and stuff. They also need to go they need to go re-energize. They need to go rejuvenate. So they need a little bit of free time as well. So with Roam, how Tauck's designed it, it's going to be quite a bit different from a normal Tauck trip, where basically it's kind of like a half and half philosophy, we'll call it. So about half the trip is going to be very well organized. They're going to have multiple tours, day tours, kind of excursions, that kind of thing. About half of those will be included, that a normal Tauck trip would include. Same with meals. They're going to include about half the meals and half won't be included. And the reason why that is like I said, so people can basically, this age group, they really want flexibility. Yes, they like to have some stuff organized, but like I said, they also want some flexibility built in there as well. They want some free time. They want to maybe go to the spa, do some yoga classes, hang out at the pool. They want to just go out into the town with their partner and explore on their own and, maybe do some shopping or go to a meal outside of, one of the organized meals. So the point is that basically, it's not only, like I said, for a certain age group, but it's also a different style of travel. There's also going to be, some more active things as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. And of course, you're going to get a lot of those, typical, Tauck VIP style, excursions as well, which I'll talk about in a second here. Now again, just to, make sure I reiterate, I didn't say this is for mature 20 and 30-year-olds. I didn't say this is for young at heart, 65 and 70-year-olds. It really is for 40 and 50-year-olds. And again, this is not to offend anyone, it's nothing like that. It's just basically that, these people are spending a lot of money to be with people in that age group. So again, if you're not in that age group, there's other great products for you. Let me know and I can kind of help figure that out for you. And it's the same with other companies. I mean, there's some companies out there who they don't allow, they're like adults only cruise ships or resorts and all that kind of stuff. So it's just another way that they're just trying to service a very particular market. And of course, that really, appeals to the people who are going on those trips. So just something to keep in mind. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea, about the kind of trips that they are. Like I said, more flexible, more freedom. Another thing to keep in mind is that these are very small groups. They're only going to be 16 people on average. Again and again, when I talk to people my age and I tell them about all the trips I've done, they say, that's nice, but I don't want to go with a group of 30 or 40 people. Now, that's never bothered me personally, but for whatever reason, a lot of people want to go really, really small. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is that with these Rome ones, they are going to be quite small at just 16 people, on average. So that's something I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people for sure. Now, let's talk about, how it's going to work with the inclusions, kind of like I said, there's going to be half and half when it comes to, to the food and the tours and all that kind of stuff. But like a typical Tauck trip, all the transfers are going to be included. So that's a real highlight for a lot of people when they land in a new place in a different country. Rome is going to be there. They're going to pick you up. They're going to bring you to the hotel. Of course, they're going to bring you everywhere along the way, and then they're going to bring you back to the airport at the end. So you don't need to worry about that. They're going to be booking the hotels for you. And these are some really nice luxe hotels. When you look at it, some of the places they're going to be staying, we're talking like one and onlys, and beyond hotels, Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton. I think I saw some, actually I stayed at a Belmont, part of a Rome, trip, and I'll talk about that in a moment here. So the point is some really nice hotels are going to be included. Like I said, there are going to be some organized tours included, about probably, like I said, half of what a normal Tauck trip would be, would have included, but they're going to be in there. Again, probably about half your meals are going to be included. Pretty much breakfast all the time, and then lunches and dinners are going to vary because that's when you can go out and kind of do your free time thing. For your Rome director, which if you've traveled on Tauck, like a Tauck director, that's your guide who's with you the whole time from start to finish, their gratuities are going to be included. So like I said, it's going to be very, very, very inclusive all along the way. And when it comes to the hotels, it looks to me, because I've been studying these itineraries, because again, these haven't even started yet. This is a brand new product. I mean, it's starting later this year, but it looks like a lot of these tours are going to include, like the land-based ones, probably 3 to 4 days at almost like a retreat-like hotel. So again, you might be in like a city hotel where you're exploring, but then more like almost like a spa kind of retreat place where you can kind of really have some free time. So something to think about there. Now, when it comes to destinations, there's only 12 itineraries right now. I mean, this is literally their first year. Right now, we're in mid-2026. They're going to be starting up some of these tours later this year. And then they're all going to go online in 2027. So there's only a dozen to start. So basically, we've got probably about 7, I think, are in Europe. So a few of them involve cruises. We've got some river cruises. One is on the Douro River, going to Porto on the Douro River in Portugal. Another one is going to be on the Danube River, where you're going to start in Prague and then go on the Danube River and sail through Vienna and those areas. There's going to be another one in, I think it's like Sicily, Malta, Rome, and that's part of like a Windstar small ship cruise. So like I said, there's a few cruises involved. Now, those ones you are going to be part of a bigger group. There'll be 100, 120 people on board because you will be traveling with, regular Tauck guests. But again, you'll be part of your smaller 16 people kind of, Rome group, and you'll do your tours with them, and you'll be spending a lot of time with them, dinners and all that kind of stuff. So something to keep in mind there. But the land tours that don't involve a cruise, they're just the small Rome group of about 16 people on average. Beyond Europe, well, actually back to Europe, they're going to be doing some things as well in the Bordeaux and or Dordogne region. I think there's another one that's going to be in like Florence in the Tuscan Hills. San Sebastian and Rioja. I'm probably pronouncing that not correctly. Oh, there's another one in Switzerland, in the Bern and Matterhorn area. So a lot of Europe is an option on these Rome tours. They're going to have a tour in Asia to start off with. It's going to be in Japan, in Tokyo and Kyoto. I think there's some other small places you visit around there as well. There's going to be a nice South Africa and Mozambique tour, which of course does a safari, which is, there were some of the most amazing trips I've ever done. So that's something to really, really look at if you're looking for an exotic adventure. There's another one in New Zealand, which, I've been to New Zealand with Tauck years ago. And, it's a very beautiful, active place, a lot of great food, wines, the scenery is fabulous. That one looks like a fabulous tour. It probably is going to be the first Rome trip that I'm going to maybe do early next year, possibly is what I'm looking at. And then there's a couple closer to home if you don't want to go too far. There's one in California in the, San Francisco and the Napa wine region. And then what I just did recently was I flew down to a place called San Miguel de Allende. But basically they have a trip where you go to Mexico City and San Miguel and you spend some time there. It was about a week. Now, what happened was Tauck invited, I'm on Tauck's advisory board with about maybe 15 or 16 other people from different travel agencies and different, travel consortiums and stuff where we do a lot of business. So we go and give Tauck our ideas and stuff. So they invited us down to Mexico recently to get a taste of Rome because, like I said, it's not out yet. No one can try them. So we went to San Miguel and we stayed at the Belmont Hotel, absolutely gorgeous hotel. I mean, it was one of the most unassuming places. You wouldn't even know it's there. You're walking through these old town streets and all of a sudden you go into this gorgeous hotel, beautiful pool and courtyards and everything else. The food was fabulous there. But the point is, we got a little taste of Rome down there. And I'll talk about some of that here in a second when it comes to the activities and the, exclusive events we did. But point being, there's a couple of North American tours. Again, there's an Asia tour, a New Zealand tour, an Africa, South Africa, Mozambique tour, and then there's a bunch of Europe tours. So just so you know, that's where you'll be able to go later in 26 and then also in 27. Now, another thing that makes Rome quite different is they are focusing more on active, excursions and day tours and that kind of stuff. Not everything. I mean, there's lots of stuff where you'll be just kind of doing casual, maybe a walking tour in Europe or whatnot, and it's nothing hard at all. But you are going to find that if you look at a normal Tauck trip, if you look at activity levels, which go up as high as 5, some of them are only like 2. But all these, I think one is 3, and then the rest of them are 4 to 5 activity levels, because there is going to be a lot of different things that you can do down there. Or on these tours, I should say. So just to give you an example, when I was in Mexico, like we did a really fun ATV ride one day. Another day we did a horseback ride. It was just so fun to kind of get out and do those things. It was, something that you can't really do with a big Tauck group, because there's a bit too many people for that. But also too, it's not going to work for, necessarily every, age either. So this is more the age that kind of like those things. They do a lot of different active things. I actually got a bit of a list here because, again, this is all new. So I kind of just want to read some of this off just to show you some of the cool events you can do. There's paragliding over the Alps when you're in Switzerland. There's a lot of different biking options. In Japan, they have the Shimanami Keido route, which is a famous cycling route in Japan. It takes like 1 or 2 days, so you're going to get to cycle a portion of that. When you're in San Francisco, you can bike across the Golden Gate Bridge. In Switzerland, you can bike through the countryside. Then there's all kinds of different hikes. Of course, you can hike the Camino de Santiago, the famous hike that a lot of people go and do, every year over in Europe. There's going to be vineyard hikes in the Douro Valley. When you're in New Zealand, you can trek the Queen Charlotte track. You can hike Lion's Head when you're in Cape Town. That's Lion's Head Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa. You can climb the tallest dune in Europe. I can see some water stuff here. There's kayaking in France. There's whitewater rafting in Bratislava. There's more rafting through a river in Florence. There's some hot air balloon rides. So keep in mind, again, if you like a little bit of active, and again, not every day is active. You might only get 1 or 2 of these things or trips. So this is not, for extreme people necessarily, but there is going to be, definitely an opportunity to have a little bit of, adventurous fun there for sure. Now, what I love though, besides the active, is that they are keeping, we'll call it the Tauck exclusives. Again, if you've traveled with Tauck, if you've watched my videos, I'm always talking about how Tauck does some exclusive things here and there. Again, I've traveled with Tauck 13, 14 times. Some of the exclusive things I've done have been absolutely incredible. We're talking, my goodness, I mean, private, Viennese, concerts in Vienna at private palaces and private dinners and chateaus in France. I remember being in New Zealand and we went to Peter Jackson. We did all the Lord of the Rings directing, and he has a private museum down there with a lot of World War II memorabilia. It was one of the most fascinating museums I've ever been to. Here we are at nighttime. It's shut down just for Tauck people, and we have a dinner right there in the middle of the museum. I've done so many things like that with Tauck over the years where it's just been like exclusive things here and there. So looking at Rome, when I was in Mexico, because again, like I said, they invited us down to give us a taste of Rome. Some of us, Tauck advisors, and a couple of things we did there was like one day they took us to, it was like a private tequila and mezcal tasting. That was a lot of fun in this beautiful, kind of restored, old home. Absolutely gorgeous, just the setting in itself. They taught us about all the spices, because spices are such a huge deal in Mexico and how they, use it with the food, and they showed us how all that works. And then the highlight was, we go out for this beautiful outdoor kind of seating lunch where there was this, grandma and her grandson, and they're literally there on like the grill, and they're cooking these, fresh tacos right in front of us. It was one of the most, beautiful meals I ever had, just because, again, seeing, the grandma and the grandson working together was such a nice, authentic thing to do. So they're going to do some, unique things like that, around the world. And again, I want to kind of look through some of the lists here because again, this is all brand new. So I noticed in Europe, there's a bunch of Michelin star meals. A lot of people, I know a lot of people my age, they just love to eat. They love to go to fancy places. They love to try all kinds of different food. So Michelin star restaurants are part of some of these tours. Vineyard lunches. There's going to be some food tours. I can see there's a private cooking class in Hungary, a private Italian estate multi-course dinner. In Africa, they go to a secluded beach and have a private picnic. There's a private dinner overlooking Matterhorn Mountain in Switzerland. So just some beautiful things like that. Another thing is they're going to do this exclusive jet boat ride through the canyons in New Zealand. And then when you finish it, you take a helicopter ride to Queenstown. I did this when I went with Tauck years ago. It was one of the best experiences I ever had. It was just fascinating. The jet boat ride was super exhilarating. But then we were in the middle of nowhere, and these choppers going boop, 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 boop. Literally, I think they sent 3 or 4 in. They pick us up. We're like, rock stars. They fly us out. It was about a 20-minute ride to Queenstown. It was some of the most fabulous views I'd ever seen. And then Queenstown is absolutely gorgeous. So when you get there, I mean, it's just, you'll know what I mean when you do this. So that's, something you can do in New Zealand. They've got like a private Jeep tour in Cape Town, South Africa. Private temple visits with a Buddhist priest in Japan. Private museum tours. There's a private waltz lesson in a palace in Vienna. So the point is that you still get to Tauck, we'll call it exclusives, where they're always looking for unique things to do, but it's going to be more active than a typical Tauck trip is. And again, it's going to be for people in the 40 and 50 range who they want to plan vacation, but they want a lot of free time and flexibility in there as well. So I hope that gives you a good overview of what Rome is. Again, no one's able to give you a full review of Rome yet because they haven't even operated. So I probably got about the closest taste as you can have because, again, we went down to Mexico and we did some stuff that, guests are actually going to do. Hopefully within the next 6 months to a year at the most, I will do a Rome tour and be able to give a full review. But for now, hopefully, this gives you the confidence to maybe give Rome a try if they seem like, they are the right fit. So just a couple of technical things here to finish off this video. Number one, when you do one of these trips, if you book a 2027 Rome trip by October 1st this year or in 2026, Tauck is going to give you 1 free hotel night, either pre or post. This is a big plus. A lot of you who travel with me with Tauck, I'm able to get you a free hotel night. Even if you book with Tauck directly, you're able to move your booking to me if you haven't got that. And a lot of times I can get that for you. But the point is they're going to try to do the same thing with Rome. But normally you can't get it as a first-time client to Tauck, but you can with Rome because it's a new product and it's just a promotion. So again, if you book by October 1st a 2027 Rome trip, you'll be able to get 1 free night from Tauck. Now on top of that, because I'm what we call a certified Tauck advisor, I do a ton of business with them, I'll be able to get you another free night, or like if you go in 2026, for example, and you can't get a free night from Tauck, I'll be able to get you a free night. So the point is that in 2027, you should be able to get a free night from Tauck and a free night from me as long as you book by October 1st. And this is a big highlight because these are expensive hotels for starters. And you always want a little bit of extra time at the beginning, maybe even the end, depending on the city. So this is a big highlight. You never want to show up to these trips the day of because if you're late, it kind of ruins it. You've dropped all this money and you're already late for your first events. It's just not the way to do it. So you want to show up early. But word of warning, and if you're a Tauck client, you guys know this, some of these hotels sell out very early. So if you know you're going to do one of these trips, get a hold of me or your own travel agent or whoever you're booking with ASAP, because you do want to make sure that you book early so that you can actually get the hotel, because if it's sold out, they can't give it to you whether it's free or not. So something to keep in mind. Keep that October 1st deadline in mind. And then again, if you do happen to be a client of mine and you want to work with me, I can get a free hotel pretty much anytime as long as it's available. So something to keep in mind. And then the last thing, a lot of people say, how do these trips get booked? This is just like a Tauck trip. Whether you book for 6 months or a year out from now, same as always, you're going to put down a deposit. They're always non-refundable with Tauck. So same thing with Rome. You want to make sure that you can go before you commit to these trips. So again, depending if it's a land tour or a cruise, you might have to put down a $450 deposit or $600 deposit, or the cruises are like $900 or $1,500, depending on what it is. So keep that in mind. You'll put down a deposit up front, and then depending on which trip it is, for the land tours, you're going to have to pay in full 3 months before you leave, or the cruise is 4 months before you leave. And then of course, Tauck has a pretty good travel protection plan as well, which I've talked about in other videos. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. So again, hopefully that gives you a bit of a summary of what Rome is. Again, brand new product. No one's fully reviewed it yet. Again, I have got a taste of it, and I got to say, my first taste of it was I was very impressed, because again, the hotel was gorgeous, the food was great, and just the exclusive things we did. And we were just there for a couple of days. But again, tequila tasting, mezcal tasting, this was all private. Learn about the spices, having a private, taco lunch made by grandma and her grandson, and then doing the ATV ride and the horseback riding. My first impressions so far were definitely pretty good. So if there's any inclination on your end to do this and you're not sure, just give it a try. I mean, I can say with pretty much full confidence, I'd be shocked if you're not going to be super impressed, because again, Tauck's been around for 101 years. This is just another division that they're doing to market to certain people, but they're going to still run things the Tauck way. So you don't need to worry about the quality and that kind of thing. So if you're not sure, try it, see if it's for you. Hopefully it is. And if not, maybe we'll find another product for you down the road. But any other questions, just leave a comment underneath this video or contact me at ShawnPower.com, and hopefully I can help you out, maybe get you on your own first Rome tour. Beyond that, we'll talk to you in the next video, and have a great day.